Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Adam Price, Fibre Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, Rob H, Ben White, Maximum Gravy, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Muted, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
So we could easily do something else.
I guess I was wrong.
Yep, you were.
What?
I don't know. Someone said, I guess I was wrong. So I was like, yep, you were.
Because he has a show scheduled for 9 a.m. I figure when that happens, there's no show.
And doesn't Neil work in construction?
Yes, Neil works in construction.
Yeah. Do you know the difference between direct and indirect measurement?
What's the difference? I make measurements. That's it. I
Oh,
make direct.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know. Globers seem to have a struggle with direct and indirect measurement.
My answer was closer to you're no longer on the job site. That's the difference.
Yeah, pretty much.
I have never indirectly measured something directly.
You have had an indirect measurement before, though. If someone
I've
else
had an
measured
incorrect measurement.
No. If someone else measured it and hollered down the measurements to you, that would be an indirect measurement.
I work by myself. Never happened.
That's not an indirect measurement.
So I said it's incorrect.
You're talking about the difference between calculation and measurement, aren't you?
Well, look, the pipe's over there, or here's the one end of the tape measure. I'm going to stand here, and we're going to see how long this pipe is.
Don't leave us hanging, citation police. Tell us the difference.
Okay, so one, you put the measuring device directly to the thing you're measuring. And the other one is it's not directly to the thing you're measuring. And so you have to make premises, inferences, and calculations, right? Your calculations could be correct, but if your premises and inferences are wrong, you don't get the correct answer.
I would never do that. And what I do doing flooring is no such thing as indirect measurement. You have to measure correctly or you're screwed.
Isn't that just calculation, though? When you have a premise and it's related to a measurement, but
if you're going to do that, then we call it guesstimating, but you do go off a measurement and you guesstimate above what it is so you don't fall short.
that's guessing. That I don't think it's the same as calculating or measurement.
What's a measurement? I drop my tape measure. If I'm measuring a floor, I go deepest point to deepest point, lengthwise and widthwise. Add that up, multiply it, divide it by 9. That's how I get my yardage. I just multiply it. That's how I get my square footage. If I'm doing carpet, I turn it into yardage and divide it by 9. You have to have exact measurements. Or you could guess it, but you guess high.
Yeah, but that's not the same as a measurement or a calculation, I'm guessing. I mean, that's basing on past knowledge to do
Dude, if
something.
there's a wall and it goes so far, you could look and you can see another wall drop in. You don't know how far that wall drops in because there's something in the way.
Okay, so
You guess,
John's
all right, say 8 feet.
John's sphere geometry for his kitchen has got a direct measurement of a physical obstruction, which he calls his wall horizon. That's a direct measurement that you can take of something tangible with a measure, like a physical measure, to it. Well, by comparison, that's where the difference lies with the heliocentric version of the same maths, because in that version you've got an indirect measurement of a physical horizon. Now, you're not running a tape measure to it. You're assuming certain things and then taking an indirect measurement. When you just take a picture of it, that's not measuring it. You then have to apply certain premises that you will rely upon to make your indirect measurement. And one of those premises is flawed, that in the first instance is a physical obstruction known as earth curve. Now, if you take that as an assumption when you start making your indirect measurement of it, then you know, does that prove that you're measuring a physical sphere edge horizon? No, it doesn't. But you have to accept that as a premise when you first start making that indirect measurement. I think that's citation police's point. Maybe it's not. We'll soon find out, I'm sure.
Yeah, but you can't drop a tape measure to the horizon. That's why.
Yet another reason that Nathan is offering.
I mean, you could take an angle measurement to it, you know, from 2 points, but then you still have to apply inferences on top of that.
2 points to where? Something that moves?
No, yeah, something that moves, that's fine. I mean, a measurement would just be an observation of change accrued in units of some type, right?
You're not taking no measurement to the horizon. I don't care who you are.
Okay, so you point to this.
Well, yeah, you can print it out on a photograph and then use a ruler and measure it, but then you have the wrong premises again.
Not the same.
You started off by saying the globe believers don't understand this difference. Well, given that we've had to ask you for clarity about what it is, that doesn't bode well for us, given the next inference that you'll maybe make, now that we all understand what you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you wanted to know, like, whether a surface was curving or not, okay, to directly know that, you take a straight level or a straight edge, you put it against it, and you see the differential. That's direct. Using lights or off angles or all this other stuff, that's indirect. Basically, Bob asked, like, how would you falsify flat Earth? And I told him, direct measurement of the surface. There you go.
But that'd be a problem.
Okay, so Eratosthenes wouldn't be direct measurement, even if it was practicable to do. Right? Because what did Eratosthenes have to do? He had to make assumptions.
Well, he directly measured the shadow and the angle in which light.
Right. So what does he know the direct measurement of from that premise?
The shadow. What it does is what it does.
Right, but everything else after that's a calculation.
All he knows is the angle from above the horizontal.
It's going to need a flat plane for that.
That's exactly right. Because the angle is either an angle of depression or an angle of elevation. So to have the angle of depression, it's an angle down from the horizontal. To have an angle of elevation, it's an angle up from the horizontal. So when you're at sea level, you're getting angle of elevation, you need to establish a horizontal. That's your eye line. And if you're using the natural sea horizon, that changes all the time with weather, and you're on a boat, you got to make sure that you get it horizontal. So that's why you do height of eye correction and do dip, which gives you a parallel to your eyesight horizontal. So it's the same. And when you're going to do an angle of depression, then it's an angle down from the horizontal. So if you're on a cliff and you see a boat in the ocean, then your sight is right on that boat. But it needs to be relative to something. So you have to have a horizontal line in the sky. And that's the co-altitude. That's the zenith distance, the complement angle. So you just need a horizontal. And what's horizontal? Sea level.
Yeah. Or to put it another way, if it wasn't flat, if Earth wasn't flat, none of this would function.
Nope.
That's correct. I think that's demonstrated every time Ken puts a slide up.
Well, the ballers came on and said, you don't need dip. You just need a horizontal on your eye line. You said, thank you for validating what dip does. That's the whole point. You need a horizontal to your eye line. How do you get that at sea? You can't use a bubble sextant to get a horizontal where you don't need dip. But you can't use a artificial horizon, a pan with some mercury or motor oil in it. I mean, that liquid in the pan cannot be moving. You're on a boat in the ocean. Everything's moving. So the only thing stable you got is the horizon. So you shoot the horizon and you say, as soon as I get horizontal with that horizon, I have a right angle. And I need a right angle. So with the bubble, you get a right angle to your eye line because the horizontal is where your eye should be. And with the sextant at sea, if you can do it, then you wouldn't do dip. But you got to do dip because you got to get your eyes to the surface of the water. And from there to the horizon, it's all level.
You know what's wrong with that, Tenth? I'm going to tell you what's wrong with that whole thing. It makes too much sense and it's too easy to do it that way.
Well, that's what's in their books. And this is what's funny about their books. And we covered it yesterday, is that there's a lot of paradoxes in their books. They'll show the globe Earth in circular form, call it a sphere. They'll talk about things that have to do with a sphere. And then when it comes to the actual navigational skills, they're all flat Earth based, and you need horizontal and right angles and 90 degrees and perpendiculars and all these things that they don't want to say that's in their books. So they'll say it's in the manual. Yeah, I know. Satan told some truth and lied in the Garden of Eden too.
Yep, you mix the truth up with a lie.
That's what they've done in that book.
And didn't tell them the consequences of that lie.
Well,
actually, he did. He lied to them. He said, you won't die.
Yeah, you'll be just like God. That was the lie. But the whole point is, in the navigational books, and just like every liar, it can't be 100% lies.
Can I ask you a question about that? As far as within the book, the means and method is still using a flat plane, and people still arrive at their destinations using a flat plane.
Yeah, well, it has to be because it needs to. If you have to establish a horizontal, and an angle of elevation is an angle up from the horizontal. So if you're saying that you're using the sextant, and from the surface of the Earth, you're getting a right angle triangle, well, does that make the surface of the Earth then?
Perpendicular.
A flat plane where a perpendicular could happen. It's not. See, all you gotta say is 90. Why do the books say subtract from 90? What's a 90? A right angle. Now, whether that right angle is your eye line, because that's where the sextant is when you hold it, well, what's got to be on the ground, parallel. Because if the ground's curving away from you, the GP won't be where you think it is.
Well, there's a lot of us stuff too, like as you rise in height and the horizon appearing to drop below your eye
That's right.
level.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But you can use that angle to do it.
No, they've got the dip correction tables as you rise up in height. The bubble sextants, some of the models have a switch on them that if you don't want to use the bubble to establish the horizontal, you could switch that off, and they have a table because you're now going to use the natural sea horizon from the airplane. And then they get this table saying, are you 20,000 feet above sea level? Are you 19,000 feet? You guys subtract that. So what are they telling you? It's the one and the same. The minute you establish a horizontal with a bubble, you're saying that the sea below you is also horizontal.
Yep.
That was one of the traps. That was the one. Well, actually, that was the major trap. But there's another one. When they fought dip, it was over for them.
Would that be correct?
Right, because the dip's assuming a geometrical physical horizon in their rhetoric.
Well, it's correcting for it. So what's that you say? You think you've got a physical geometric sphere edge for a horizon, and what are you going to do with it? Are you going to correct it flat so that this works? So leave your sphere belief at the door, correct it flat, and then we can do our triangulation. Okay?
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Remember I used to say it just blows right through refraction? All the way to the GP of the star, 3,000 miles away from you. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it ain't flat all the way there.
When we were getting to grips with this, Brian got quite stroppy with this because I was saying things like, well, you know, if you're close enough to the ground, you don't really need to do the dip correction. It's not that necessary. You won't be that off in terms of finding your destination after you've found your position with this method if you don't do dip. And Brian was like, you're not getting it. The whole point of the dip correction is to get it to be the pure geometry of a right angle triangle. That is to say, you correct it so that you've got a flat plane, so that you've got a right angle beneath the GP of the star that you're measuring. That's why you correct it, to make it perfectly geometrically flat.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, I mean, if you're on a small craft and you make a mistake on it a little bit, it might throw you off 3 nautical miles, but the whole point is to get it right, to get it correct so that you're closer to your target, so that you can have the right reading. So the whole point is the purity is to make it geometric, and it's a right angle, which means the earth is flat. And they even tell you this. So when they confess that if you don't do dip, you might be off by 20 miles, what are they telling you? They're saying you made a mistake. You treated the earth improperly.
Yeah, you didn't correct that stupid fundy sphere belief to be flat. So it's wrong.
Yeah. They don't say it that way, but they're saying that same thing that you just said.
I was thinking about Akumu virus and his why would how did he say it? It's about R. Like you asked him for evidence of R, and he said the evidence of R is that you asked for R. Remember that?
Yeah,
really?
So by equivalence, it's me saying, you got any evidence for unicorns? Well, just the very fact that you're even asking proves that they are a thing in existence. All right.
He was the first one that fell into that trap, too. When Nathan grabbed him, he said, oh, yeah, all right, Black Swan, then.
No, that was straight line to the horizon. Oh, we've got a straight line to the horizon. What's the Black Swan's just forgotten about 2 years later then, without even being comprehended in the first place? No, black swan, you haven't got a straight line. Refracted, that's what we were told for 2 straight years. So no, you fundy, you haven't got a refracted line. You haven't got any line. You need it to be geometrically flat, though. And any preconceived fundy sphere beliefs will have to be corrected, so...
Well, most of their, I mean, I've shown you the ones they haven't, but most of their depictions is an arc on the meridian where they put the sun or a star. And so you say, well, if they got the sun there, let me see if let me get a picture up. I'll be right back.
Yeah, I was saying he's the first one that fell into that with the horizon. He forgot all about the arguments for 2 years, what they said to us. But it was clever how you caught him right away, Nathan.
Or stupid that he would assert he's got a straight line to the horizon when his whole shtick for 2 straight years is that the line to the horizon's bent. Obviously, you've got a refraction. Are you stupid when you're asking us why the horizon's beyond the physical straight line limitations of the geometry of a sphere Earth? Well, we've got a bent line to it. All right, so when we start using this tool that requires it to be straight, what do you tell us? Well, we've got a straight line, haven't we? That's what he said.
He said light bends. He said light bends.
His eyesight.
No,
I'm looking at it.
He said that light bends, but his vision's straight. Like the biggest contradiction, like within the same breath.
Yeah.
That's right. I remember that.
Do you see the picture, Master B?
Okay, yeah.
All right, so let's have fun here. What's wrong with this picture?
This is the one that QE presented yesterday. Or is it?
Yeah, but you've seen many of these, so it's the same thing. So I could show this one with just QEs or one of the other ones.
So what's wrong with it?
Yeah, what's wrong with it?
It doesn't have a line from the sun down to its GP position.
Exactly. Now I'm going to put another one on. Hold on. Let me grab this one. There we go. All right, you got this. Why does this do that?
That looks awful.
It is awful. It shows it, but then when I show it to you, let's get rid of that one. It shows good in my computer, but when I download it, it doesn't show good.
Other than that, it's fine. There's nothing wrong with these depictions. You know, what's
well, here we go.
There's nothing wrong with it.
No, I know. It just needs to be clear and concise. And I'm going to get a picture. Where is it? Oh, 1 second. But you spotted it right away, Nathan. That's what's wrong with that picture. Now, you see the equatorial plane as I'm searching for the other picture they're standing on? Isn't it funny how computers work? They run quiet, or did I lose you guys?
No, we're just waiting for you to post
Yeah,
on
I'm
the
waiting
picture.
for my computer to work right. Okay, here I got it. There we go. All right, let's see if this one works right. Yes.
Okay.
All right, so between these two pictures, you see the sun's GP in this one, the second one, is the zenith where it's directly over a place on Earth. And then you can see the right angle beautifully. The one above, just like the one below, has that arc of an angle where the two arrows meet as your sight line to the sun. The first one doesn't show the GP to the horizontal, straight down, but the second one does show the GP of the sun to the horizontal plane that we live on, straight down. So this is the right angle because no matter what they say or how they say it, you always subtract from 90. Well, what 90 is it talking about? Because there's two 90s here on the bottom picture. There's the right angle to the sun, and the 90 would be the sun's zenith vertical over the earth. And then there's the right angle and the zenith or 90 of the observer, where you see the straight line going and it says up at the top. So that would be directly above the observer, because you can see the point where the vertex meets is where the observer is to get that right angle to the sun on the plane right there in the middle of the square. So you got two right angles. Now, where is the horizontal? What did I say earlier? Angle of elevation is an angle up from the horizontal. Where's the horizontal if the navigator is there on the ground? Isn't the horizontal the adjacent on the ground as well?
Yeah, any line between this line drop down from the sun and the line drop down from where it says up, anything that joins these two positions would be parallel to the plane of the ground below at 90 degrees. So therefore, if I, for the audience's benefit, say you're here, I'm about half an inch above where the grey is marked out, but on the line marked up. Well, if I'm here, let's just say that's in an aeroplane. Well, you're going to need a bubble sextant to establish horizontal, so you maintain 90 degree to that position along a horizontal line that will meet the GP in exactly the same way as it would on the ground, because the line that you have with 90 degree at your position and 90 degree to the GP of the star is parallel to the ground if they're both at 90 degree. Now, to achieve that, you've got to have a flat plane to do it. And it works. You can do it at any altitude, because 90 degree will always be parallel to the GP of yourself at the ground position of yourself, or the ground position of the thing you're measuring, in this case the sun. Parallel will always give you 90 degrees all the way up. All the way up to here, you've still got 90 degrees because it's parallel with the ground. And that's what you're establishing with the tool. If you've got a bubble sextant in an aeroplane, or you're on the ground and you've only got the horizon, you've got to make corrections for the fact that that natural phenomenon doesn't give you perfect parallel if you're above it. That's what dip correction really is. They say it's for an imaginary geometric horizon we debunk with the black swan down here, and they say you have to correct that flat. Well, okay. If you want to bastardise the real dip correction, actually height of eye correction, and claim that you're correcting your globally flat, well then I'll take that as read as well. You're correcting it flat, because that's what you need to do this, with parallel lines at 90 degrees.
All right. Good summary. But I showed that slide yesterday with the dotted line, and they even say sea level 0 minutes, 0 seconds. And they totally throw their geometric horizon under the bus because it has nothing to do with it. So again, another paradox, in their books. So right here on the last picture, the up, that's the observer's vertical. And now what they're missing here is what I'm sending you now. So this one out of their book, if you see the next two I just sent, is imitating that you live on a curve, but it's laughable because you can't put 90 there if you're trying to say it's a curved surface. So again, more shenanigans on their point. But you can see the star and the subpoint, the GP of the star, just like the sun in the previous picture. That's the vertical. That's the 90. But then here's the observer in red. And in this depiction, we do have the co-altitude. And again, they're playing around by showing you a bit of a curve on that, but that can't be because that's a right angle in the sky. So the whole point is, this is the trickery. So the circle of equal altitude and the radius from the GP of that star to the observer is a straight line, 1,800 nautical miles of straight. And you get that not from the angle of elevation, you get that from the co-altitude, which gives you the zenith distance of that star to the zenith of the observer, and that's from the sky. That's the angular measurement. It comes from the angle Okay, now if you go to the next picture.
Before you do, they even mark it out. So it says 90 degrees here. Now they're alluding to this line, I think it's yellow, with horizon labelled just beyond the GP of the star. Well, they're alluding to that being curved. That's what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Well, this says 90 on it.
Yes.
So this definitely ain't curved.
No, exactly. Totally. So now, if you go to the next slide, this is what they're actually saying. So here's a person with an eye line to the sun. That's, just imagine that's a sextant. Just he's and then he's going to bring it down to the horizon, and that's how they do the waggle and get the elevation angle. But you need this up from the horizon, and then you bring the sun down to get that first angle of elevation with the sextant. Now, if you were the sun and you were looking, I'm having fun here. If you were the sun and you were looking at this guy on the earth, the sight from the sun would be that same hypotenuse line that's for that guy. But then you'd have to be it would need to be relative to something. So the sun would have to have a horizontal. So you see that top horizontal to have an angle. So this is the angle of depression. He's looking down. Okay, so this is how it's working. And this is how they get their zenith distance. It's a box. So the angle of elevation has to happen from a flat plane. After all your calculations and everything, you need a right angle, and then you minus that elevation number from 90, which gives you the co-altitude, and that gives you the zenith distance from the observer's zenith to the sun. And you just bring it down from the sky to the earth, and it's the same distance.
Outstanding.
But they trick people. They trick people with pictures. And one of the earlier pictures that I saw, and this is why people say, "Well, I bought the book, and it shows pictures that it works on a sphere."
Yep.
Okay. Well, read and understand. Be critical about it. Is it working on a sphere, or are they just picture showing it's working on a sphere?
Well, that's that fallacy that Jose said about sources versus citation, where, what was it he said, that you have to hold it dear to your heart if you're going to cite from it?
Yeah, but hold on, Tent. Once they see that they're going to the center of the earth, that should be the eye opener. Am I correct here?
Well, so far it hasn't. And it, again, once you have strongholds and fortresses in your mind protecting a certain bias, what's going to penetrate it?
I think that's where this hypnotism comes in. The world is so hypnotized by heliocentrism that they don't even see.
Well, from what I understood about the guy that I heard speaking about it, is the first step in mass hypnotization is to make everyone within that group feel like they can't trust their own senses and comprehend reality. They need someone else to do it for them. And you just described heliocentrism from that.
Right. And then if you do see it, you're trained to fight against anything opposing it. Why did I immediately start fighting with my brother? It just clicked, and I was like attacking him right away.
Hypnosis.
So Nathan,
mass hypnosis.
So Nathan, I've got that paper plate example that someone drew to make it simple.
Okay.
So you see here, you've got the red is the elevation angle from above the horizontal, and then the yellow is the complement after you subtract from 90. That would give you the zenith distance and you times that by 60 nautical miles. So you can see the zenith of the observer comes right down the mast of the boat to sea level, and sea level to the horizon has to be horizontal to give you a right angle. And then they got this arc in the sky. They're not completely showing you that picture above where it's got to be a box, and you've got to have another right angle up there for that yellow 90, that yellow part. They're not showing you that part because it's going to make the sky flat.
Right. Well, they're using the arc of the co-altitude to assume a shape to the sky that's spherical. That's all they're doing.
Yeah, because when the sun, good spotting there, John. So when the sun is rising in the morning, or as it appears to rise, as it's going over our plane, it's low on the horizon, perspective, the whole thing right there. And when is it its highest point? When it's at your zenith. When it's directly above you. And then it's going away from you, and due to perspective, it looks like it's arcing down. But really, it's just going away from you. Just like clouds that are 10,000 feet above you, and you look at the horizon, it looks like they're touching the ocean. They're not. They're still 10,000 feet above those, that place over there.
That's a very specific number.
Well, it could be 15,000 feet. It could be 12,000 feet. Clouds above me might be one distance. Clouds over there might be another. But the whole point is, we know how clouds work. Whether
hey, if you were on the other team just now, Nathan would have jumped all over you. You're stammering, stuttering.
I didn't stammer or stutter. It's early in the morning, and I'm trying to say that it doesn't matter. We know how clouds work, unless it's fog right on the surface and no one can see anything.
Take it on attention. I'm only messing with you, 10.
I know, but you scared the crap out of me when you yelled.
I'm going in and out, so.
Okay, so, hey, Nathan, one last slide here.
Too late. You started the show.
No, I haven't. Go ahead.
It's got 3 minutes. All right, so you see here, he established a horizontal with his eye line. But you can't do that on the boat. It's very difficult unless you're at the dock and the water is completely calm. Then you could do a bubble sextant on your boat. But you see, once you establish that dip correction and get to sea level, then you could say, well, then that would match my eye with the actual sextant and the natural sea horizon. So you got to have a parallel here. It's always going to be a right angle. And there can be no right angles on a curved Earth. Impossible.
Good presentation.
Thank you. Just keeping it basic, because my only claim is the sextant is an angle measuring device, and then describe what an angle is, and then apply that to my reality.
That checks out.
Indeed.
You know, after applying the stuff that you taught me, I was surprised how easy it was to do that in my kitchen.
I really enjoyed what you did there. I hope you continue to
So did I.
Part 3, part 4, just mirror what they do with the ball. Just do it with your kitchen every time. Every argument you hear, just do a kitchen video to make fun of it and to teach.
Yeah, see, John, your mistake is you're thinking that you're making fun of people. You're not. You're doing it in a humorous way, hopefully opening their eyes to the folly.
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now we are joined by Neil, Refracted Curvature, 10th Man, Brian's Logic, Righteous Force, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, you enthusiastic lot. Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle from... Go on. Get them all out now. I've got enthusiastic for you. Hello, Discord.
I tried, Nathan, but Righteous brought it down when he said good morning. Come on, Righteous, get up.
Well, I just came off mute.
Okay, let's try that one more time. Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle from a curved adjacent?
Don't be
Morning.
silly. Don't be silly.
No way.
Morning, whoever that was.
That was me again. Thought I made it funny. I guess not.
It was sufficiently different for me to not recognise your voice. Very good.
No.
All right.
You said, let's try it again. And so he said, okay, I will. Good morning.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to have to be less literal at this time in the morning for you Americans. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere edge horizon, formerly known as Earth curve? I know that halfway through the show, people will start telling me about how people are around and about on the circuit still using Earth curve calculators and asserting that Earth curve's blocking boats and stuff. Yet when I ask in the housekeeping, silence.
Well, the silence is deafening. That's why we're silent.
No, I want the accounts. I want people saying, no, the other day I was in this blah, blah, blah server and some guy bought up Earth curve, and the next thing you know, they're talking about this Earth curve calculator.
Okay, they constantly do it at Gem Pandas, and they constantly do it at Jose G. Gonzalez. They ignore everything. They're still going with boats over the horizon, a proof of Earth curve. Yeah. What are you going to do?
We welcome Adam and Arwin.
Hello. Hi, guys.
Hello.
See, Neil, that's what you do. You welcome Adam and Arwin.
No, Adam's
I
going to...
got something to bend Neil's head.
Go.
I'm 2 minutes late just because I was just catching a video. It's been put out by on Flat Earth Banjo's channel, but it's our old friend Wakey Wakey. I forgot his name.
Mark Knight.
Thank you, Nathan. Interestingly, a name some people may know, David Wilcock. You know, the supposed reincarnation of Edgar Casey and the Great Mystic and Alien.
I know exactly.
Yeah, right. He's come and attacked Flat Earth, claiming it's rubbish. It's all ad hom, and misunderstanding of his own model. But that we're all government agents. We're out with disinformation to derail the great alien revolution, I think.
What?
It appears.
Oh, he feels threatened by us because his great alien revolution relies on heliocentrism and its ideas of sky vacuums and space. Bless him. Oh, you feel threatened, do you? You should.
What?
Well, if we're working for the government, I haven't gotten paid at all, so I would like a check.
The thing I found interesting, I'll post a link. It's only 7 minutes, but in all of the kind of weak attack videos, the standard rhetorics are used. But this is the first time I've heard somebody mention a sextant. Incorrectly, he cites it as proof with Aristarchus and his sticks in the ground, but the sextant got mentioned, and I found that interesting. I've never heard anybody on their side ever bring it up before, especially.
What did he say?
No,
What did he say about Eris?
hold on. Let's not ask too many questions before we labour the point directly. So he's using a sextant in his argument for Aristarchus, did you say?
Yeah. Like I said, he doesn't know
Excellent.
his arse from his elbow in terms of what he's saying. He's just
So,
reciting the rhetoric he thinks he remembers.
okay. He's citing a rhetoric that's going to require a flat plane.
Yes.
Would you like to explain why, in case this gets trimmed out?
But just, he's going to measure, he uses a sextant to measure an angle. He's going to need a straight adjacent, not a curved one. He's going to be needing to take those measurements, like the kitchen, whatever he's going to take his measurements and do with afterwards, he's going to have to take them off of a flat plane.
Perfect. Maybe he didn't realise that his elevation angle in this instance, when citing Aristarchus, would leave him requiring a flat plane to assert the angle measurement in the first instance. Obviously, he didn't realise that. But it's nice that you've used the sextant so we can point out that you're going to need a flat plane for that.
Well, we covered it in the pre-show. Elevation angle is an angle up from the horizontal. So if he had a stick in the ground, he just proved the flat plane.
Well, we've got a useful diagram queued up. The one with the side on square and up and the sun labelled in it, 10th man. So it's marking H as your elevation angle.
Yeah. I'm looking. Is it the one that shows this the co-altitude on top?
No, Z, zenith equals zenith angle, A equals azimuth angle.
Yeah, got it. I see it. Yeah, exactly.
You're going to need a flat plane, my friend. Did you not realise?
Mark points this out nicely for him. He goes into some other bits and bobs, which is quite interesting as well, because obviously when they try to cite ancient Greeks, he goes into some of the Greeks at the time that criticised some of the Platonian model, saying it's not mathematically correct, which is lovely. But yeah, very, very interesting to me. And I think just that somebody of this stature in the UFO world is now, attacking us and calling us shills. Why? I mean, we know why. It destroys their narrative. But yeah, basic ad hom was his retort, mate. It's just stupid. And you know that the moon's a sphere, look, because, oh no, we don't know the moon's a sphere.
But he said it destroys his narrative. Let's just do that now for him. So, Mr. Alien Invasion, you believe that there's an area devoid of all matter akin to a vacuum beyond the atmosphere, sphere-shaped air on a planet called Earth in your imagination. So you believe we've got gas pressure without containment and the ability for us to leave and enter a sky vacuum. That would leave us all dead because the gas would expand to fill that space also. That's what gas does. It expands in all directions to fill the availability of volume. And that would be an availability of volume, a space for it to fill. What do you call it? Where the aliens will be coming from? Space? Yeah, that'd be a space for gas to fill, and we'd all be dead if the sky was a vacuum. It stands directly in violation of a natural law known as the second law of thermodynamics. So if the sky was a vacuum for your aliens to come from, then the gas we breathe would fill that space. We'd all be dead if your aliens had a place to come from called space. Space is fake. You can't have gas pressure without containment. Ergo, there is no sky vacuum called space for your aliens to come from. It's completely nonsensical. That's why you're attacking us, flat earthers, because you feel threatened. Because your whole narrative relies upon space. We can debunk it. How embarrassing. Yeah, you better be sure to come along with a few ad homs to let us know that we need putting in our place when you haven't got a region for your aliens to come from anymore because of us. Yeah, you'd be damn sure to be attacking us. Bear in mind that your sky vacuum ain't real when you do so. and we can debunk it with natural law. That'd be the second law of thermodynamics. Look it up. Entropy debunks your place where you think aliens are coming from. That is all.
Well, I was going to say the only argument they'll come back with is akin to trying to debunk the existence of bread with toast. They'll ask about a gas pressure gradient that requires a container to have the gas pressure to begin with.
First, you have gas pressure. That would be gas under pressure because it has something to press upon. That would be containment. Without that necessary antecedent of containment, you wouldn't have any gas pressure. It would fill whatever availability of volume it had. Once you achieve gas pressure, you can then develop things like dynamic systems and gas pressure gradients. So to have a gas pressure gradient, you first must have gas pressure. And if the sky was a vacuum, the gas we breathe would fill the space. We'd all be dead if space was real. Entropy increase. That's all gas wants to do. Fill space. And irony of irony, that's where you think your aliens are coming from, right? Space. A space for the gas we're breathing to fill? Yeah, that's not real. Entropy has debunked that notion. You've all been lied to. Any evidence you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon.
Now, that was one thing he did stay away from as well. No, obviously. You know what I mean? But nice rebuttal there, Nathan. Thanks.
I'll trim it out and put his name on it. But ultimately, his entire religion and worldview and paranoid delusion that he disseminates onto the masses is based on a region that's fake. So everything you do and everything you peddle is debunked by us, isn't it? Sorry, what's his name again? Like I care. You're just another fundy with a belief we're destroying, which means you need to attack us personally, doesn't it? I don't even know what your name is, nor do I care.
Well, he's got an alias. He's somebody else that came back from somewhere that you can't come back from.
What's his name?
Going back.
It's another expansion of it to me. To have somebody in that field who's, like Brian's heard of him, lots of people will have heard of this guy. So for him to be bringing it up in his little alien world, it's interesting. It's bringing it to their consciousness. So
what's his name?
David Wilcock.
David Wilcock. There you go.
That name says it all. Hey, listen, I found out the cause of entropy.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did. Ready for it?
Let me just give the Nobel Prize Committee a ring first. And
It just hit me like a ton of bricks. I think 10th Man knows where I'm going with this. The fall of man is the cause of entropy.
Well, that could be a description of an entropic effect. That's not the cause.
We were not decaying. There was nothing decaying before the fall.
Look, if you want to establish the cause of entropy, you're going to end at the ontological primitives. That's where you'll end up.
Can we just address this? Because that's the misunderstanding of entropy, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, it is decay, though. I mean, things do die, right?
No, a political fall isn't the same as an entropic decay.
Okay, enlighten me then.
Are you Democrat or Republican? We have to come at you the way you think.
Well, talking about physically, things die daily. How many times you say that if you leave your car out 100 years from now, it's going to be rusted, right?
Well, listen.
I heard you say that was entropy.
Neil, the stars were made for signs and seasons.
We're talking about conventions.
Within the 7 days.
Neil's describing...
Doesn't mean there's decay.
Hold on. Neil's describing a convention, right? You can't qualify how conventions come and go on a curve, on a bell curve on a graph as an entropic decay. Now, you might be able to correlate part of the graph with that, but you're talking about the qualification of a convention if you're describing the fall of man. Yeah, that convention's not an entropic decay. We're talking about the natural world, not the decay of a convention. So no.
Okay, all right, then explain it to me.
Just did 10 seconds ago.
Becoming of death.
No, that's not making sense. Because I've heard you say it before.
Okay, let's try a different way. Okay, right. Your love for your wife is a convention, and how much that falls away with time seems, by description, right, the lessening over time, that sounds like entropy, but it isn't, because it's a convention. Your love for your wife isn't decaying in a natural way qualifiable with entropy. Do you understand now?
I understand that, but so you're saying that things decaying over time is not because of entropy?
Depends if what you're describing as decaying over time is a convention or not.
But he's not talking about
quick
it. He's not talking about what you're talking about, Nathan. He's talking about literally there was no decay, aka there was no death.
Thank you.
Man didn't have a death date, literally.
That's
That's
was why I had
bollocks.
an objection.
That's total
Yeah.
bollocks. What are you talking about?
According to
Neil,
scripture,
That's why I was responding by saying there
I'm
were
sorry.
seasons.
Sure, then I'm sorry I cut you off.
okay. Do you know what those seasons were? Everything changed with the fall. So we're going to get into a big
Neil.
debate here, so forget it.
Neil, can I ask you a question? Did hot go to cold before sin?
Oh God.
I got you.
You
Help
get
me.
me now?
Yeah, I got you.
I'm going to read out Godzilla's
Nathan,
chat.
this has to stop.
Just shut everyone up. Godzilla, thank you very much. I don't miss your super chats all the time. It's not true. The globe is dead and globers are starving. Don't be so callous and send a starving glober a box of crayons today. That's an appeal by Godzilla via super chat. Thank you very much for the support. Sorry,
I
Brian.
got it now. I was confusing entropy. I'm sorry.
Brian, go ahead.
Guys.
Hey, Chocolate. Go ahead, Brian. Go, Brian, go. Go.
Yeah, no, I just said this has to stop, Nathan. This is complete and utter superbolics. Sorry.
Chocolate saying my brother, my co-hostess with the mostest. What's up, man?
Wow. What's
Did
up
you
with
just
the-
call
what's up
Chocolate
with-
your
We're in the
bitch?
middle of housekeeping.
Check it out.
What's up with the toasters with the mostest?
I'm just kidding. I'm busting his chops.
You're just buttering up his toast. That's what.
Oh, there you go.
I can't see chocolate being called Melba.
Okay, so there's going to be a chocolate
I got the
slash
worst in the
Eli.
world today. What's going on?
Do a proper plug, otherwise just becomes an in-joke.
No, it wasn't anything. I was just joking. We're not hosting anything together or anything.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
Nathan, the panel just is having fun with their pals here. Come on, lighten up.
Live show. Hello.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Almost 100 people
That would be a
watching.
good show.
We still haven't done with
Yeah,
housekeeping.
but do feel free to send money in for the show that they don't host. I manage it and take 10% off the top.
That's
Okay.
right.
So, any evidence of the distance to the sun?
I figured that out too. I'm just kidding.
If you want to assert a distance, you'll need an elevation angle for it.
Yeah, by the way, they derive their calculations. You'll need a flat plane for the way that they assert it. Correct. Any angle measurements which are utilised along the process will have a flat plane utilised to get them. Correct.
No, but wait a minute. See, you guys are always trying to straw man the Glober's position. You see, in John's video, the part that was at the base specifically said not a flat plane. It was written in plain English, Nathan.
What? Was it written in blood?
It was on the protractor.
It's also well, that part didn't have any blood on it, so I guess not.
Sorry, on his protractor it said Earth is not a sphere.
It said it was not a plane.
Earth
At
is
the
not a
date.
plane
Right,
on a protractor,
right.
and the protractor's the arbiter of your paradigm and worldview, is it?
Well, it was the thing that appeared to be level and straight was labeled not level and straight. So you can consider it not level and straight because what was written there.
You can think of it that way, right, Eli?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So when you want an angle of elevation, is that a down angle or an up angle?
I think what he's getting at is like,
Hang
It's an
on.
up
Hang on.
angle. It's an up angle.
Okay, so an angle up from what?
Horizontal.
Thank you.
Okay, so
You're
I think
welcome.
we'll need a flat plane. So the lying protractor and its message printed on, you don't have to have that as the arbiter of your world. That's the conclusion.
It's gotten so bad that they have to say the protractor is lying when they use it for elevation angles.
Yeah, that's a reification fallacy, though, isn't it? A protractor can't lie. It's like if a street sign misleads you. Yeah? Like it shows priority, you're right away. And then you smash head on into somebody and they say, well, the sign told me I had right away. You go, lying sign, let's get it. Let's strangle the sign. Bastard.
They do it subtly, but in plain sight.
People are
because
that stupid, though.
They do it subtly and in plain sight because they'll show an elevation angle and put a 90 there and show it curving at the same time.
Is that where people shoot signs over there? You are entering Alabama. Bastards! Bang, bang! I'll show the sign. No?
Well, it looks like we need an update to the definition of straight, like they updated the definition of level to be adhering to the surface curvature of Earth's water. So just change the definition of straight to adhering to the surface curvature of Earth's water, and bam, Bob's your uncle.
And that's why you shoot signs, is it? That's far more complicated than I was expecting.
Yeah, it also works by shooting dictionaries as well.
Burning them works better. Metaphorically
That's why all
speaking.
the definitive words are meaningless.
Whether you're a
Hold on, who said it? Who said it?
ballistic
Was it chocolate? I heard chocolate. That's where I was going when I said metaphorically burning them. Go ahead, chocolate. Can you repeat that?
That's why the definitions of words are meaningless.
End quote. Ruhif.
But level is an observation.
Science doesn't prove anything, so.
Level is an observation, right? Level with the surface of the curving water is presupposition.
No, necessary prerequisite isn't a presupposition. You're not presupposing it's flat. It must be for it to work. That's very different.
Not what I'm saying is, if level is level to the surface of the curving body of water, that's the presupposition.
That's a presupposition, but it's also a contradiction. So no, yeah, I understand that's their premise, but it's also a glaring contradiction to anyone with half a brain.
Yep.
And don't go burning books because you'll find yourself in the bind with the law.
I thought Elijah was getting at the whole, they'll teach you the truth in the sextant and then turn around and show you a sphere within those manuals. And that's kind of what I was getting at with the protractor. I was using a flat plane to derive my elevation angle, but on the protractor I wrote, is not flat.
Okay, I've got an example of that too. So this was provided by 10th Man in the pre-show. So what we got in this depiction is the use of a sextant, and it shows you how you're measuring your elevation angle. And it shows or alludes to this yellow line being curved. That's what it's showing in the diagram. That's how it looks. However, it's marked out as having a 90-degree position, making this a square. Can't be anything other than a square. It's got a 90-degree angle to the GP of the star that you're measuring. to do the triangulation with a right angle triangle. It's got to be 90 degrees. That's why it's labelled as such. But someone could turn around and say, look at this depiction. It looks like it's curving. No, the geometry requires it flat. That's why you've got a 90-degree angle. You must have 90, otherwise the geometry fails. It's one of the prerequisites for it to work. Moving on, any scientific evidence of gravity?
You mean that invisible non-force force that's no longer relevant?
No longer emerging?
Well, people can still use it, though. Even though they don't actually know what it is or can't really define it, they'll still use the idea of it.
But is there scientific evidence of it? Absolutely not. No, there.
But it depends on whether science actually proves anything.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, but you can't even formally hypothesize it anyway, so you can't you can't do any experiments.
Go ahead, scene chaos, or however you say it.
I said you can't even formally hypothesize it anyways, so.
So I was gonna say, like.
Well, you could if there was a phenomenon.
Start off all with observation.
You could.
Where we see this thing.
Yeah, but what's the phenomenon? Things falling.
Yeah, correct. There's no phenomenon, so yeah, what you're going to science? Correct. If there was a phenomenon, you could go forth and science it, but that's why we ask first step. Well, what you observing exactly here? Mass attracting mass? No, you're not. What's that bending pseudo-Ramonian force space-time? No, you're not. You're not observing that happening. It's just a conjured phenomenon. There is no phenomenon.
Concept attracts concept?
Well, even within their conceptual mathematical world, where they're asserting Earth has a mass, they're using a radius value they derive from a flat plane. So that's got to be troublesome.
Math attracts math.
Yeah, we're dealing with physics, though.
But you can describe that through math. Or...
Yeah, we're dealing with physics, though. Descriptions in math, that's abstract language, as opposed to the physics, the physical.
But what if the math is mostly based on physical reality?
Then the math is still a description in the abstract of something physical, as opposed to physics, which deals with the establishment of cause and effect within the natural confines of the world we experience. That's not descriptions of it, it's assertion of cause, by way of varying that which you assume causes an effect you've observed. In the case of gravity, there's no effect being observed. So saying I can conjure one within a description of maths, there's still no effect in physical reality. That's physics. We want the physics of it.
But what if the majority of the people that actually deal with this subject do believe that that's the case?
They believe that down is gravity, that weighing something in the medium of air is gravity. That's what they believe. And if they describe it as a bending fourth-dimensional space-time or the concepts of mass attracting mass, it doesn't change the fact that there is no phenomena in either regard to describe. And when you describe a single downward bias vector, you ignore all things that defy it, that don't go down.
Right, so that's why it's only mostly based on physical reality. You know, they can't get it all complete, but it's good enough. It's good enough to still teach it in schools, and majority of people believe this, even the higher educated ones.
No, they don't. The people who are... No, that's incorrect. The people who have gone through the education to be qualified to teach at this standard, at secondary level, physics, those people have gone through an education system that have told them in no uncertain terms that Newtonian gravity is not right. They've been told, Einsteinian being the current rhetoric, if you ignore quantum mechanics, they're told that that is correct. So when they go forth and teach it in schools, matter of fact, they know it is wrong.
What do they do about it then?
Nothing.
We can, we do, we must.
But that's the problem, right? They do get educated about it, but they don't do anything with it because, hey, you can't really do anything with it. But they still got to teach something, so then they just fall back anyway. They just know it's nonsense, but they still do it.
Well, that's,
George
some, that's an
Mosher
outrage.
told us, man. We can, we do, and we must consider Newtonian gravity as a force.
Well, there you go.
It really is one, but we don't necessarily have to work at the really is level. Come on, Arwen.
Right. What else are you gonna do? You know?
It's not a question of what else are you going to do when you're talking about teaching children things that exist at the not really is level. Now, that's from the editor of Scientific American, George Musa, who's basically laying it out in no uncertain terms when we talk and reference the education of children. They're being taught something that exists at the not really is level. That's what they're being taught as fact. Well, I don't put my kids through a state-based education system to have them indoctrinated with such complete nonsense, which is confessed to being at the not really is level by a preponderance of people believing in it. It doesn't make any difference. It's not real. Gravity's not real. There's no scientific evidence for gravity. There's no cause and effect established through a scientific experiment. There's descriptions in mathematics. The abstract language of maths is all that they have in terms of the existence of this non-physical, non-existent phenomenon. There isn't one. Maths doesn't attract mass, and there is no bending space-time. It's a convention. It's a description. It's a geometry. It's not physical. There is no bending space-time. Show me space-time. And then when you show it me, which you won't, show me it bending. Yeah, you won't. What you might do to teach kids that crap is stretch out a bit of cloth and throw a couple of balls on it. And say, there you go, there's your bending fourth-dimensional space-time, reified by this cloth from a geometry that doesn't exist.
It's only a description.
Go on,
it's really only a description of it. You know, they don't claim that's literally bending of space-time.
You're saying it's a description of it. What's it in physical reality? There isn't any
of the description. It's a description
beyond the
of the
description.
description.
Yeah, there is no it. It being gravity.
Right, because it's out of reach. They can't actually very manipulate it. It's in another dimension, right?
Then it's not physical.
What are you going to do?
Then it's not real. There is no fourth dimension. They've just invented a geometry. That's all they've done. They've invented a new geometry. They've described with maths a new geometry, which includes the conception of time as a dimension. Now show me time. Now show me you bending time. You can't. It's a concept. But that's what they've done. Sandwiched in a concept as a new dimension and described gravity as the bending of that dimension. It's utter crap. But there we go.
You've said it. You've said it before, Nathan. They've hijacked true science under the guise of pseudoscience. They've taught it to everybody, so now it's consensus science, but it doesn't muster what true science is, cause and effect.
Yeah, and you've got to observe the effect for it to be a phenomena. It's not an effect until it's an observed effect. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics. At all. "102 people watching. Please share the show. That's the only way anybody ever gets to see this. So if you're watching it, you'll be watching it because somebody shared it with you. So please smash that share button."
To the last question, it's just observation, but it stops there. They can't do anything after that.
I'm waiting for John to say anything they claim within those fields will need R.
Yes, they will, and the R requires a flat plane to get the angle measurements.
There it is. Any evidence of the R value? That'd be Earth radius.
Does John's kitchen count?
Yes. Anything is spherical. You just have to follow the right procedure during your measurement.
You could just assume it if you know the circumference.
You know how they get that? In heliocentric terminology?
You mean of a circle, right? Two-dimensional circle circumference? Yeah, go on.
Well, I'm asking if he knows how they get it in heliocentric terms. What's giving them that circumferential value? It's a derivation of the lights in the sky, of course, but just wanted to know if you knew how they derived it.
No, actually, I didn't know.
It's the equator. It's the average.
I just know that they assume it.
Well, no, they've derived it. They haven't just assumed it. They've derived it from the celestial movements of the sun over the averages of the seasons. That's what gives you your equator.
Well, didn't Brian already talk about this, and we all know it already, that they use the Polaris, which is steady as any star goes. It's the only one. And they said, well, listen, when it's at the horizon, and then if we go 1 degree this way, we can't see it anymore. Of course, due to perspective and everything else that we know off of a flat plane. But if we move 1 degree this way, we can barely see it. If we keep moving towards it, it goes higher in the sky. So in order to fool people that this is just a perspective issue over a flat plane, we'll say, let's mark the equator here as our sphere and say, once you're here on the sphere, you can't see it anymore. And we'll give it a 5,400 nautical mile distance.
Yeah, that's exactly how they did it, to be sure.
Of course it is, because we all see it too. We see the sky, we see the sun, the moon, the stars. And it's like, how do we trick people with this? Hijacking perspective.
Take the number of arc minutes of your ceiling fan and calculate the distance in the GP, and from there, if you can calculate, assume an orbital mechanics of the ceiling fan, and you've got a distance in relation to number of degrees of arc that the ceiling fan travels, then you can assume and extrapolate that to the full 360 to give you a equator circumferential value, which in John's kitchen's case was 550 inches or 45 foot 9 inch. It's very accurate method of making up a equator value.
It's the celestial sphere con, basically. You've got a flat plane with a measurable arc through the protractor. Now, if you imagine a protractor lay on the floor, a 180-degree protractor, obviously it's got a curved top to it, and all of the angles that you can project out from that position on the flat base that it must have gives you what could be then described as a dome of the heavens above you. Well, if you then project your position out onto it, essentially, you've then got the line you're actually making that measurement being the centre of a sphere. Yeah? And all lines must then come in parallel from infinite distances around the sphere that is now the ground, where it was the angle at the centre of the sphere you've projected below you, rather than being the actual angle measurement. So it's essentially just a swindle from the celestial sphere to the heliocentric globe. That's really all that's happened.
Well, it's worse than that, but that'll be coming up in future shows.
Yeah, it's nice to get to the nitty-gritty of the swindle. The how is one of those questions that is always going to be wanting answered. You know, what, where, who, why, how. The most important question being why. And when anybody asks that, it's like, same as anything. Power, control, that's about it. Seems boring, but unfortunately that's what it always is going to boil down to. Just men. Greedy men who want more. That's all it is. It's sad, isn't it? You gotta laugh, right?
Look for the origin of that and you'll find your answer. That's coming up next.
We've also got the who, haven't we, when it comes to the lie. And that's the bit that probably gets us the most opposition, because when people come to assess who it is that's actually lied to them, for the most part, it's a prevalent Western worldview that's self-perpetuating. You've lied to yourself and you've maintained the lie. And other people in the system that you live in have propped up and promoted aspects of the heliocentric religion, one being the globe. So your Superman producer, when he shows Superman flying around Earth as a sphere, he's not being told, I doubt he's being told explicitly to make that the focus point of that particular shot. In a heliocentric world, he's just, or she's just grown up with that as the idea and has just perpetuated it on the big screen. Well, that's led everyone else to grow up with that idea more cemented than it was prior. And then they've gone forth and perpetuated out the lie to their children and their children's children and so on and so forth. So when it comes to the, well, who's lied? Well, we've been born into bondage, as what is it, Morpheus says. It was already prevalent when we got here, just like whatever religion of whatever timeline you can look at was already there when anybody's born into it. And therefore, when they're told the stories of their gods or Zeus or whatever it is they're being told when they're growing up, you know, we look back retrospectively and go, oh, well, they were just told these fables and parables and stories because at a deeper level they wanted to carry on ideas of the sky and the stars. It's like, yeah, but for the person that was living in that time, that was just the way the stars and heavens were, because that's what they were told they were, and everyone around them believed it. Well, for us, that's heliocentrism. So the who is us, isn't it? We were the ones peddling it. Me, I've got my stories of talking to my niece about it when I'm pointing up at the stars and telling them what they are in a very heliocentric way. So who's the who of it? Well, it's us, isn't it? Embarrassing. The where, though, is the question itself, isn't it? Where are we in reality? Well, we're on a flat plane in reality. And while that might skew what you had as a good grasp of where you were, well, doesn't change the fact that the world itself hasn't actually changed, hasn't unfolded from a sphere shaped. It always was the way it was, and you just had men around you lying to you about it. Still the way it always was. A realisation that you've been lied to is really all you get as a benefit at the end of that, because the world doesn't change. It still is what it is. Check out how deep my panel are in thought over what I'm babbling about.
You're right, mate. There's not a lot to respond to. It's acceptance of that point is the disappointment, and to speak to their motivation is a futile thing. Recognition that you're being lied to is sufficient for me to try and second guess. I know you said it's greedy men, and yeah, I won't deny that bit, but try and second guess, it becomes an irrelevance to me. It's sufficient to know we're lied to, is for me. It's like wasting energy again, isn't it? It's not worth.
Absolutely, especially if you get to the who, and it's an individual who's perpetrated a particularly egregious lie that you perceive. Well, if you try and divine that person's motivation, number one, there's a good chance they'll continue to lie to you if you try and appeal to them. They might try and regain your trust and just lie to you all over again. And if you find out that they just did it because it was fun, for the sake of it, just so they could smile and smirk, you know, is that going to make you feel better? Especially as the journey to get to that point, if you ever got there, which is unlikely, would be one of deceit and lies, more lies, you know. So what's the point? You know, once you address or figure out that you're being lied to on a big scale, you have to turn your back on the people that you know are perpetrating that lie. And I'll give you a for instance, with almost, you know, complete immunity. I don't feel in any way like I'm going to be scorned or punished for saying what I'm about to say. NASA and any space agency are overt liars. Now, there's going to be people within those systems, because there's thousands of people that won't be in any way conscious or aware that they are deceiving the world with what they do. Quite the contrary, they're put in place to be plausible deniability, and therefore completely absolved of any guilt or any deceptive finger-pointing from our direction. But there are certain people who, I don't know who they are, but within that organisation, who absolutely without question do know that they're lying through their back teeth. They must. Why? Well, because what we discussed earlier, there's a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum being claimed. We journey to it. So it boils down to who in the public eye can I point the finger at? Astronauts. It's about it. I can say they're all liars without question. Go on, who is ever desperately trying to interrupt off mic? Neil.
I want to read something because you brought it back to there. If my wife would stop texting me and binging me. Okay, let me read this quick. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. That's Genesis 1:1. And his creation was good. Verse 31. This raises the question of our current world in such irreversible decay, or as scoffers put it, why did God create an imperfect world? The obvious answer is that God did not create an imperfect world. The world became perfect when humans sinned. That's in Genesis chapter 3. From this passage, it appears a new principle of decay was enacted into creation when sin entered the world. This is known as the principle of entropy or the second law of thermodynamics. That's all I wanted to read.
Where's that reference from?
This is from ICR, Institute of Creation Research.
That's loose, man. That is so loose.
Yeah, it is. It goes on, but I just wanted to read that part.
I hate that, if I'm honest, Neil. I hate it. I hate it so much. Some guy's come along and decided that he's going to spin his interpretation of this description of decay in that instance in the Bible into his version of the second law of thermodynamics. Now, while I agree with the sentiment, so it leaves a bitter taste in my mouth to say, I don't like this. I don't like this at all. People do this all the time with the Bible, and it's disgusting, frankly.
It's just straight blasphemy.
Well, let me
blasphemy what you've just read there.
Spirit and physics
an
don't
individual man's incorrect
on.
perspective to take scripture and pervert it for his worldview. That is blasphemy.
I agree.
He might not. Let me read a couple of more things. I'll get
Blasphemy.
back to you.
Is the second law of thermodynamics specific to decay alone? The answer is no. So his premise is false.
Yeah, he goes on to say that. So don't attack the freaking guy. Relax.
We're not.
Continue reading.
You're owning this argument, so it's you.
Yeah, it's you, Neil. Don't mistake that we're attacking the.
I'm just saying I misunderstood it. That's all. So I'm reading up on it. But I'm not the first one to think of this. The hot and cold destroys that. Yes.
Repent now, Neil, before it's too late.
Yeah, so what you're saying is that the person who you cited doesn't understand it.
Outrageous. Neil's not taking ownership.
I'm gonna read. No, he straightens it out. That's just the first thing I read. He goes into everything, Boltzmann and all of that stuff. I'm just reading it now.
Okay, well, we'll leave you with this, Neil.
Neil, if I did what you did now, I would never have formulated the Sexton argument. Do things with a lot of research, checks and balances, and
Hold on. I was just saying I'm not the only one who thought of this. That's the only reason I read it. You jumped on and called the guy blasphemous. Didn't even give me a chance.
No, you. We were calling you blasphemous. It's you that has to take ownership of this argument, Neil. You're the one presenting it.
I listen. All right, I should have prefaced it by saying, "Oh, I'm not the only one who this thought entered their mind."
Oh,
Excuse
I see.
Me,
you think? Let me get it straight. Neil thinks an appeal to consensus to back up this would have saved him.
Yes.
No, not at all. So, Fiber Oats, shout out to you. Thank you very much indeed for the super chat. Lying, protractors. Oh, yeah, sorry, I have to contextualise how this is being written. Of course, lying protractors. One-sided debates and house with molten iron cores. Oh, my. We didn't get to molten iron core, Fiber Oats, but thanks for reminding me. Any evidence that you can have a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of that presupposed spherical house? I mean, Earth. Did you see how Neil has got super defensive, super fast? We're only messing with you, Neil.
I'm reading on. Here's the second part. Okay,
So much for the research. So much for the research. Then talk.
I just want to go because maybe this guy straightens it out. What is the law of entropy that set in motion the decay that currently dominates our natural world? The earliest ideas of entropy arose in the early 19th century out of the work of Lazar Carnot and his son. I don't know how to Sadie. Who the hell would name their son Sadie? With heat engines. So the earliest concept of entropy was first associated with the study of thermodynamic systems. Subsequently, the work of Rudolf Clausius, Ludwig Boltzmann, Josiah Gibbs, and James Clerk Maxwell led to a more comprehensive definition of entropy, one that interprets all possible microstates in a system as contributing to the initial and final macro state of the system under any type of transformation. Does that straighten it out a little bit?
What, your bastardization of a Bible verse to tie it to that? No, no, that's still an absolute outrage and total blasphemy.
This modern view of entropy embraces the ideas of reversibility.
Hold on, Neil wants to chant a bit more.
This modern view of entropy embraces the ideas of reversibility, disorder, and randomness of a given system.
Okay, we've got no issue. Now, hold on, Neil. We've got no issue with this description of entropy.
It out, don't it?
Yeah, nice summary of entropy and its history. Very nice. Who cares?
I just don't want you to attack the guy that wrote the article because I read 2 verses.
No, we're attacking you for using it in citation to link it to that particular Bible verse about decay. That's the issue, not his description and summary of the history of entropy as a description. That's not a problem.
Who gives a shit?
Yeah, go on, because it's you that we're moaning at. Yeah. Take it on the chin.
Chin.
Okie dokie.
Neil, that's your opportunity to throw a guy under the bus because he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Say that again, citation, please. You got rumpused.
I'm saying that's Neil's opportunity to divorce himself from the citation by saying that guy is incorrect and I was incorrect for using it in my argument.
Yeah, we did highlight his lack of ownership of the argument earlier on.
I did own it.
Okay.
The citation you just gave, the bit you just read, kind of snatched your own wig off, dude, didn't it? It kind of affirmed the point we were making.
Yes, that's why I read it.
That's why I did it, obviously.
Of course. That's what I thought.
Because you were saying that people take this and Bible and that and they just bastardize it. Give the guy a chance.
It's you we had an issue with coming on Flat Earth Debate and blaspheming like this.
No, you said it, but I read that guy's thing. That's
terrible.
When he attacked it.
Misappropriation of scripture from you.
Shut up, Adam.
Problem is, the problem is that the Bible describes processes that require changes of entropy before the fall. So the guy's incoherent even within his own assertions. He has to change the definition of entropy in order for anything for him to do to follow.
There is.
He does as we go on. As I read on, he does. So
there is a bit
relax.
You could link, Neil, in terms of like cancer cells replicate forever. They don't. I can't remember what it's called, but at the end of when cells replicate, there's so many things. I want to say telomers or or something. And there's these little bits dangling on the end, and there's only so many of them. Somebody help me there. Was that
called a telomere? And they degrade over time for every reproduction cycle.
So if you're wanting to look at something like the fall of man, that would be the point that genetically God introduces that, which limits the number of times cells can replicate. It brings in, it is old age. That's why cancer cells never die. They never get old. They don't have this cell replication function. But that would be the point you would look at in terms of sin coming in, that the introduction into the DNA, that you put these limiters in terms of the number of times the mammalian cells will replicate, which isn't entropy, but that's the way I would say you'd limit man's age.
Total silence. You chuck a dog a bone. That's what you get.
Moving on.
I'm glad I weren't on my own. Whoever helped me in Discord there, thank you.
Citation.
I'm interested in seeing if this hole will go deeper than the cola super deep.
What was that, 12K? We didn't get an answer, Molten Iron Core question. I think that was actually the last housekeeping question at the 56-minute mark of the show.
It's comical now after all these years with these housekeeping questions, because we do it because there's people who actually believe it. And it's comical because none of them are coming here to prove why they believe it. They can't prove any of their beliefs.
No, they don't even answer them. They say they're childish and toddler. Anybody can answer them, but they don't answer them.
Well, that's like the guy who posted in chat that we are misreading what the sextant manuals are saying and navigational books are saying. And then after that got dealt with, then they said, well, the guy that wrote that book was poor with his illustration.
Really?
Yeah, it's funny as heck. We go to their own books, their own religion, and then they say, well, that's a poor illustration of my religion. I know, but it's in all the books.
That's why they come up with their own subjective interpretations and create an offshoot denomination.
There you go. Excellent summary.
So we at least have one denomination that represents itself in here often, the space Plumbobians.
That a reference to the guy earlier, whose name I keep forgetting?
No, that's you don't need the horizon. We do need the horizon. I mean, you can mix them all together and come up with the space Plumbobians.
You check my screen, I've got the space Plumbobians working in the background still.
Yeah, but who was the guy we were talking about? The Cox something or other?
David Wilcox.
David Wilcox.
Adam, are you in the ISS?
You can have a field day with that name itself.
This is the Space Plumbob 1 research station.
Yeah, I can see there's two spherical things behind you. Where are you? You're not in the ISS because I see two planets.
No, Nevada.
Oh, you're in Nevada. Okay, no wonder.
Excellent stuff. With that, though, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering Stream, stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream, and I'll see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
And I don't even think of space and all of that stuff. I watch it freely, just for entertainment.
Is this a confessional? Are we in a booth with Neil telling us about his sins?
No, I'm saying I started watching the Book of Boba because all the remake of Star Wars movies, well, continuations of them, to me sucked. but the Book of Boba was good.
Okay, just dip
And,
your hand. Just dip your hand
the
in the
other one was
font.
good too.
Say 3 Hail Marys. You're all forgiven. On your way.
The Mandalorian was good too. That was a recommendation by the Adam Meekin, which I'm glad I listened to him.
Yeah, but Adam's off in Nevada in the impossibility of a sky vacuum. Why would you believe Adam?
Adam's not in Nevada. He's in England, is he?
Didn't you see his screen? He was in Nevada in the second law of thermodynamics violation. I want to know how he does that. Maybe NASA taught him. See, they've done away with him. He gave away the secret.
The guy we were talking about, whose name I keep forgetting about.
Wilcox.
Wilcox.
David Wilcox.
David Wilcox. Is that an old subject that's just been republished, or was that something that he'd done recently? Because I vaguely lost track of what you were saying, because there was an overlap with something that someone had done ages ago.
I think the whole they're pissed off because you're debunking heliocentrism and planets and outer space and all that goes with it. So they're pissed off about that. So they're going to come from all corners of anybody who needs that to be a reality. So, like you said, one day you'll have a Scientologist come here. Hasn't happened yet, but you will.
Your man David Wilcock, Nathan, you're talking about, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard him a few years ago claiming the flat Earth was a psyop. I'm not surprised he's attacking it now. Like, I mean, he's going to get stuck. It's like him and people like him are heading for a desperation time. Like,
well, they're saying you and I and Nathan and everyone here is government agent.
yeah, it's all a big conspiracy. It's all a psyop. We're all like just crazy agents. Blah blah blah. Yeah,
Dude, that's baloney. I'm a government agent. None of you work with me.
yeah, I don't know you at all.
What, you are a government agent, did you say? Citation, please.
Yeah, so I can validate that none of you are because you don't work with.
No, that's not the bit I want to focus on. So you do work for the government, is what you're saying?
No, he can't because I work for the government and I would know him if he did.
Alrighty, well, I'm glad we cleared that up.
Yeah, see, we're compartmentalized, so many government agents floating around here on your channel, Nathan.
Exactly.
Yeah, I believe it.
It's pretty sad.
Oh, go on, Brian.
No, I'm just saying it's pretty sad that one of the things he brought up was the sextet. It's like, lad, you're not keeping up to date with the flat Earth debate. You know what I mean? Talk a bit stupid.
Oh no, he was summoned. They needed someone else to come and bolster up the failing ballers who can't deny the operation of the sextant.
Well, is gas pressure requiring a container a psyop, or is that just physics fact? Do you know what I mean? That's the only question that matters, isn't it? Don't need to even ask us any other questions or talk about any other housekeeping questions. Is that a psyop or a physics fact?
Well, according to what I was just told, I still haven't established if this is a recent thing or a re-up of an old argument by Wilcox. But either way, that's something that wasn't addressed according to the summary I got, which is to say that I view that as the reason why we're being attacked and ad hom by Wilcox, which is to say that his entire paradigm is under threat because we point out space isn't real. So therefore, attack is the best form of defence if your whole worldview and therefore potentially your income and your living, if that's what you're peddling and that's what people are buying, quite literally, your income depends on it. And we stand in the way of a lot of people who like him. Now, obviously, we stand in direct convention of the people who punt heliocentrism in the first instance, but they're very much shielded from us. So we're only left with their minions and followers fighting on their behalf, while simultaneously throwing them under the bus in many instances, which is painful for them, not us. But in this instance, he's
I
a
would-
sideline heliocentrist that does have a career and a living that's dependent on us not being around to point out that the place he claims his aliens will come from is fake. That's the bottom line.
Well, Adam
I
brought
would
up.
say that.
Well, let me finish. So Adam brought it up. He's got a video, so we'll have to investigate. But this is all projection. He's the government agent.
Well, I would say that. And what was I going to say? Oh my gosh! Oh, flat Earth, like the term flat Earth and flat Earth society and all of that. I think they're used as a scapegoat, and all of the straw man arguments against models that none of us actually stand by or argue for. Like all of that is a scapegoat for the people who, prior to this one particular term that you can just lump people in and say, well, that's them. Prior to that, they didn't have a reasonable reason to hand wave dismissal, dismiss the people who are actually in academia getting their degrees and asking questions like Professor Pierre Robitaille, whatever his name is, questioning the cosmology of the sun and things like this, and the vacuum of space. Like there are people like that all over the place. You sign up for Scientific American or any one of these publications, and right there you are, somebody questioning something that's been said for the current standard model, so-called. So these people have been questioning it a while. It's just they needed a scapegoat to kind of take the heat off of people asking legitimate questions.
Y'all talking about David Wilcock before?
Yes.
Wow. He mentioned flat Earth. Yeah, the flat Earth is a definite opposition to his whole lifestyle. This is a guy who thinks he's the reincarnation of what's his face? Edward Casey. Edward Casey, yeah. And like he claims that he's got people that he knows that have spent 20 years on the moon and secret space missions and shit. Like this is one of those guys. He's on like the Gaia channel and shit. Like he's one of those guys. He's in contact, according to him, he's in contact with like intelligent beings and shit. Like this is the level we're talking about, that guy. So he definitely can't have flat Earth doing the thing. Yeah, probably worse than David Icke.
Well, he might have a point, Chocolate, because his arguments are pretty alien to me.
That just finishes him right there.
Yeah. Every time you listen to that guy, he'll tell you how he's in contact with intelligence agents and shit. And
I bet he's got millions of followers.
And did he watch Indiana Jones 4? How does he know that these aliens he's in touch with aren't interdimensional instead of extraterrestrial?
Too.
He's not in contact with aliens.
we got everybody in the mix.
Citation, he did not see that coming.
Did he just say two-dimensional?
Good pun there.
Me and 10th Man got it, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, I think the audience did not see that coming.
David Wilcock, some years ago, I think it was 2006, he claimed, he actually came out and stated publicly that on this particular date, I think it was the 6th of October, on this particular date, that the governments, like the US governments and government and the Russians and everything, were going to disclose the existence of aliens. Right? It never happened. It's like way back.
I've got the wrong guy. Have I got the right guy for my? Hold on. Have I got the? Hold on. Have I got the wrong?
What's the other guy? The SETI dude.
Stephen
Him and
Greer.
David Wilcock. Every time I hear Disclosure, those are the two I actually think about because they're always
Stephen
saying,
Greer chocolate.
just around the corner, guys.
I got the right guy. Blonde guy with the centre parting.
Yeah, big slap, big forehead like mine.
Yeah, I got him.
You math people have big foreheads. That's not fair.
See, the problem with aliens is it's not like a mathematical model that you can just run the numbers, check, and go, yeah, that's good math logic. With an alien, with aliens, like you have to actually prove that. Like they're not going to go for the numbers show that they could exist because they've already been doing that. If you say there's an alien, the scientific community, quote unquote, can't latch onto that because there's nothing to latch on to, lest they'll be like, outright liars.
Well, that's the next play, Eli. They're going to produce some, and they're going to, because it's all in the news. Every day I see something when I look through the internet of aliens, and from the Pope to world leaders to everybody. So that's their next play, and of course it's fake, but they're gonna fool the masses just like they did with the sphere.
My
That's
friend
not
is.
new. I mean, they've been doing this already. Like that's not new.
Yeah, it's not new. Eli is right. It's not. I was watching that nonsense for years. Well, when I say I remember following along with all this nonsense, all that nonsense years ago, and it never came down. It was never coming down. It became a big joke. But the thing about it is, even like what Tent said there a minute ago, like they want you to at least believe that it's all ramping up, whether it is or isn't. And my friend actually, and he's not a flat earther or anything like that. And he said the next thing they're going to do is tell you aliens have come along. That's the next thing. And like he's not a flat earther, and he's expecting a mock alien invasion or a mock alien something. You know what I mean?
Well, that's what's going to happen.
No, except they're not real aliens, and that's what Citation was saying.
Right.
And Brian's right, because they want you to. They're just putting into your consciousness out there so that they're what's the word? They're buttering you up, or they're conditioning you. That's the word.
Years ago, me and my brother used to talk about it all the time. What would cause the great falling away of the church? And it would be an alien encounter or like something to come out to say, look, there's proof aliens exist.
They would have to, like, for instance, the thing right now. Like, this is something that people would have to have faith in because they at the very least believe that they don't have the equipment to verify what has been verified by people with the equipment. When it comes to aliens, they're going to have to. This is something that isn't too small to see. It's something that has to be tangible. I don't think they have an avenue or a method in which they can roll this out that makes some coherent sense.
Really? You're joking, right, Eli?
Well, I just gave you the reasons why.
I think you're giving too much credit to people. They are so hypnotized by now that it's not going to take much, Eli.
No, people are going to want to see evidence of aliens, especially since what evidence of aliens has been programmed into the minds of people by TV. They're not going for their aliens, but none of us can see them or experience. Hell no.
Did you hear what Citation said? I was going to call Eli alien. Did you hear what Citation said, alien? I mean, Eli?
Eli.
Gosh,
do you not realize?
I didn't hear what he said. So
I find this quite offensive. I'm actually 12% alien.
You realize?
You're 12% of everything, Nathan. You're a cosmopolitan person.
Do you really
Which
think
makes
it's
them
going
100%?
to take a lot to convince people? Because it took months, just a few months, for them to brainwash the world that there is a deadly virus that's going to kill everybody, to shut everything down and destroy.
That was a part of my example. Did you not hear what I said?
And that was 4 days, not months.
But did you hear what I said? The difference between that and something that is the size of something we're supposed to see. Very different thing. One has a setup in which you have to have faith because you may or may not have the resources to validate, or may not have the credentials to validate, versus an intergalactical being, or whatever you want to call it, physically being here. Somebody's going to want physical evidence of that, not math about it, nothing other than we want proof.
I don't see it. Look how they believe that we're on a spinning water ball, Eli, without no proof.
Yeah, there's a problem with that, though, guys.
That's what I'm saying.
You have to provide that proof.
They're going to have to show
Eli,
us.
There's plenty of people within the heliocentric paradigm who are physicists, etc. For example, one just came across my feed 3 days ago that clearly demonstrate through the physics that they understand of the universe that it's impossible for us to travel into deep space or for any alien to come from deep space to us. So you see, a lot of people will see these quote unquote aliens and will say, dude, that's impossible. There's no way things can get here from other places. And so there, even though you're looking at a creature, right, you then have to say, oh, where'd it come from? And then that creature, or whoever's the powers that be, would have to give you a story of how they got here. And you would have to believe that story based on your understanding of the physics of the universe that you believe in.
Well, the thing about it is, let's just say an alien turned up, right? We can't, those aliens can claim to be from, or they can just give the impression of being from a sky vacuum, right? When they might be just from an outer land. We don't know. We can't go past Antarctica without having to come up with a load of money and get a load of, go through a load of red tape. And when you get there, then you're left walking around. You can't even bring a sled dog with you. You can't do anything.
But this is what I'm saying by physical evidence. Like you're talking about there being something.
Yeah, hang on. The point leave me finish, Eli, please. I'm actually going along with you. You didn't leave me finish. I wasn't finished.
I was quiet. Then the other guy said, "Let him finish," and then you said, "Yeah,
All
let me finish." Go ahead,
okay,
man.
but it's all being lost now in the wash. The point I'm making is just because, let's say some being or beings did turn up, that doesn't mean they're from a sky vacuum. And if they did turn up, right, they might be able to be here and be from somewhere else, and they might be more advanced than us. I don't know, but that doesn't mean they're from a sky vacuum. So we have to see it from all.
That's what citation said.
That's what I was.
That's what I said.
I don't care what you say. Man is the deceiver. I don't care what they said that it's impossible and what physicists say. If aliens show up, the whole world is going to believe it.
So they're going to need evidence.
They're not going to need evidence. They're gullible. People are gullible.
They will have evidence.
No, because when it comes to aliens, they're not trying to hear. When it comes to aliens, nobody's trying to hear scientific evidence. Nobody's trying to hear mathematical proof. People are like, "Show me the cat. I need to see this." What are you talking about?
And they will.
If you told people today, hold on one second.
They'll plaster all over the world on TV.
If you show,
with the special effects they have
tomorrow
nowadays, they can show aliens to the whole world and make them believe it.
That is correct. It's called Project Bluebeam. They did it in 1962 over Havana in Cuba because Castro was a communist and they wanted the people to revolt against Castro. So they showed a supposed U.S. submarine projected Virgin Mary over Havana to the people, and Virgin Mary, told the people to actually revolt against his communist regime. So it's old technology, and they're going to use it. They are continuously using it. So I also believe that they're going to do it with aliens as well.
I don't know about any of that.
Hold on one second, Brian.
Yeah, it's called Operation Mongoose. It's called Operation Mongoose.
If you told people tonight that they had to crawl on the floor with a mask on to go to work because this thing is hovering within 3 feet of the ground, you will see thousands of people crawling with masks on. Okay? Very
Who
easily
told them?
deceived. They don't have to see nothing.
Neil, hold on. Who told them to do it though? In 1962 over Havana, who told them to do it?
Well, Castro is a crafty one because Castro sits thousands of
Listen,
kids
it
down
was
and tells
the
them to pray to
Virgin
God
Mary.
for cookies. Would you let me finish? Pray to God for cookies.
No, because you think
Have
that
you
it's
have any
that
cookies?
they
And
were
then he
told by a
said,
man.
"Oh
They weren't just
God, let
told
me
by
finish
any
my
human.
fucking point."
No. Because what you're
I'm
saying
not
is you're saying
fighting
if
with
somebody
you.
told me, it wasn't just somebody. If God told you to do it, Neil, would you do it?
Listen, I'm making a point. It has nothing to do with what you said. I agree with you.
This
But
is the
Castro
point.
is very
Right, this is the
crafty.
point.
He said he sat thousands of kids down and told them pray to God for cookies. And then when they prayed, he asked them if they had any cookies. They said no. He said, now ask me for cookies. They asked him for cookies and he went around giving them cookies. So he was putting things in their head. So they had to come up with that other vision to counteract him, to fight against him. And they were able, they weren't able to pull it off though.
That's a crummy. That's a crummy Polish trick.
Seeing the Virgin Mary.
They didn't pull it off though. Was there a revolution? Did they overtake Castro?
Did it work
Okay.
for them? Maybe not.
Well, if they would have just offered plain dough, they would have, but they offered cookie dough.
That was a crummy example, right?
Hey, Nathan,
Yeah,
I got some
let's
slides
keep in
up in
mind
Master
that-
B if you want to divert from this.
I just think
There
there's
already
a
is an
few,
example of that
people in.
culture that we all have access to, which was the War of the Worlds broadcast, which a lot of people thought was real. Right? It was just a radio show presented in the news style format. They thought it was news, therefore they said news is telling me the truth, therefore aliens are here. Supposedly people even killed themselves.
Yeah, there was a segment of there was a segment of time in which people believed that the very first paranormal activity could have actually been filmed live, and I was one of those people for maybe 2-3 days until I saw them like on Good Morning America, and I'm like, oh, they're not actually dead.
Oh no! Don't tell me you believe that.
So okay, all right, maybe. I'm just saying, like on a massive scale, like across the entire plane, I'd like to see how they would pull this off. With
So Eli, when I accidentally called you alien, I wasn't too far off, huh?
Well, if you subscribe to the Bible at all, it says that in the end times, the Antichrist agent or the beast will deceive the world through signs and wonders.
As well. Sorry, guys.
which has already happened, if you ask me.
It's a prelude, but it's about to get much worse when that time comes. Nathan.
Yes.
On the topic of earlier, I've got a bunch of slides. I don't know which one you want to show, but we can go through and have people comment. Brian, I'm sure would like to say a few things on it, and others, Adam.
Okay, starting at right angle.
Yeah, so we all know what a right angle is. I mean, we'll see something else later in the slideshow here, but that's a 90. There's your box. And two rays meeting at a vertex. And this is what in celestial navigation, the vertical is a 90. So how do you have a right angle on the sphere with a curved adjacent? Is it possible? Anybody?
No.
No. Next slide. Feel free to comment, guys. It's just Nathan and me. So you got the ship with the polar star. Is that the one?
Yep.
Okay. So we've shown this earlier, but basically You need a horizontal, and the angle of elevation is up from the horizontal. You need a flat baseline. Whether you do it with a bubble sextant or you do proper dip correction with the natural horizon to get the horizontal, it's an up angle from a horizontal because it needs to be relative to something. Next slide. You see that curved adjacent? Yeah? You see that
the
tangent
audience
plane?
can, yeah. Just assume I'm putting them up as you're asking.
Yeah. No, well, I'm asking for feedback from people. So if you see that curved adjacent, that's on the globe model that can't exist. But you see a big tangent plane where it's flat. And you can do any kind of measurement using a sextant. But it can't work on the thing below it. But that's what they're saying you're doing. So it's an impossibility.
I have something to say.
Go.
If sextants work on the surface of a globe model, sorry. If sextants work on the surface of a globe model, right, then they won't need tangent planes. Because a tangent plane is a flat piece of land on their globe model that can be infinite in size.
That's right.
So if they're going to claim a tangent plane, now it's all a complete nonsense and begging the question from their side. But if they're going to claim a tangent plane, then they're not claiming a globe, because they claim to be able to use sextants on the surface of their globe, because that's where sextants are used, on the surface. They're not used from the center of anything. They're used from the surface of Earth. If you're talking about like at sea, let's just say.
Correct.
Right. So if they claim to be able to do this from the surface of a curved sphere, then they should never need to claim a tangent plane. There should be no need for them to ever claim that.
Precisely. Nathan, go to the next slide, and Brian, you can comment on the next slide.
Okay.
What's that part of a sphere and then that big tangent plane on there? Why do they need that? That's Brian's exact argument, right?
Yeah, if the globe works, then there'll be no need for a tangent plane. You know, if the globe works, then there won't be a need for tangent planes.
And this is where they need to go to the center, imagine there with imagination, because they're not going to the center, because they're going to get an equatorial plane at the center, and that will come up soon as well in the slide present here. So let's go to the next slide. We have, oh, that one doesn't show well. Let's just move forward. That's in a tangent plane. You got the equal altitude with the green equatorial plane?
Yes.
Okay, so equal altitudes. Well, how can you, what's an altitude? It's an elevation angle. What would you need? It's an up from the horizontal. You need a flat plane. So circle of equal altitude, same thing. Can't do equal altitudes without a horizontal to have an angled elevation from. This globe model is falling apart real quick here. Next slide was before it got changed to the age of the sextant. But as you can see, a protractor here at sea, and the sun somewhere off has to be a right angle 90. This is how the tool works. This is why it's over for them. They measure a flat and then trick everyone that they did it from the center and say, see, we live on a globe. Next slide. Here again, one of their pictures. They can never show it on the globe like Brian is saying. They have to use this huge tangent plane to allow that 90 to work. Everyone see that, right?
Yeah, I think what Brian's saying is, if you want to claim that you're working off a spherical surface, let's just go back to this particular slide, then this flat plane, which they describe as a tangent plane, isn't or shouldn't be required. If it's working off the surface, then you need to work it off this curved bit, not draw a great big flat plane on top of it teeter-tottering at one point. That won't be necessary if Earth is actually spherical, then you'll deal with it spherical. What's that you say? No, we must draw out a great big flat area that has nothing to do with the sphere beneath in order to get it to work. Yeah, that's because that flat area is what's representative of the ground you're standing on, not the curved surface that you're avoiding by drawing out a tangent plane. It just means that you can have this sphere below doing nothing to keep you happy about your sphere beneath. But that isn't what you're actually using. You're using this tangent plane. Well, that's the plane. So the bit that actually works is the plane bit, and the bit it's tangent to is redundant. Okay. Well, just use it on the sphere bit if you think it's a sphere. What you can't, it has to be a flat plane. Yeah, we know.
It needs correcting, remember?
Yeah, correct it to be flat. Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, no, George is correct. They have to correct the flat. But the thing about it is that if they have to use a tangent plane, then it's the same thing as the gas pressure argument. We say, where'd you get how did you get gas pressure without a container? And they go, how do you get a gradient? It's like them speaking about tangent planes is the same as them talking about gradients. You have to have, like, you can't have a flat surface on a sphere. The whole point of it being a sphere, or oblate spheroid, as they call it, the whole point of it being of any claim of that is that it doesn't have any flat areas. You know, like this nonsense they say to us. You guys think you can't have a flat surface on a sphere? It's like, no, you can't. There's no flat on a sphere. Everything is not flat. That's the point. You know, especially if you're talking about hundreds and thousands of miles of a distance. You know what I mean? You're not going to. Well, you can't have that as a flat on a sphere. You can't have that. You can have a flat footpath, you know, if you want, but you can't have a flat for hundreds and thousands of miles. That can't be had. So, you know, when they claim a tangent plane, they're begging the question of a globe and skipping over the curved part that destroys their claim and going straight to flat Earth. You know, they have to revert back to us, back to flat Earth, because they need it. So as soon as they say that, the argument is completely over. We should kill it right at that point.
And if they don't let it die, and they go, no, we are definitely utilising a tangent plane because all light comes in parallel or something other crap to keep the argument going from their side. We've debunked their tangent. Their tangent's the Earth curve edge horizon. And that's been debunked with the black swan. So when they say they've got a tangent plane, it's like, well, what you're saying is you've got a straight line meeting a curved edge in geometric spherical terms. No, you haven't. We debunked that. You've got a curved line to it. So you haven't got that geometry anymore. You debunked it. You told us how curved lines were being used because you can't ever have no Atmo day. So you can't ever achieve your spherical, begging the question, tangent plane to begin with. You haven't got a tangent anymore. So you're just left with one thing, the plane.
Yeah, they pretty much hung themselves.
Which slide?
They hung themselves by space plumb up.
What I would say though, Nathan, is if they bring up to do a parallel light, or they get into the, like if you got into the black swan argument with them, where'd you get your tangent from? Everything is always curved, according to you. There's never no Atmo day. That is like kind of like a red herring for them, because it gets them away from the fact that they have to use flat. You know, so it's kind of like they would kind of welcome that. They'd rather argue about the black swan than deal with the fact that they have to use a flat. And they'd rather, argue about parallel light than deal with the fact that they need to use flat. Because needing to use flat, the surface the surface kills them. The surface of the Earth always kills them. You know, that's why they avoid the dip and height of void corrections. They always try to do these angles that don't have nothing to do with the surface. They're always at it because they can't deal with the surface because the surface is flat.
Yes, Brian, perfect.
So the slide after the sextant. The slide after the sextant is next, Nathan. We got just 8 more to go.
Okay.
Oh God.
What do you mean? We're in the middle of a presentation here.
No one can see it in Discord.
Yeah,
So
we
you're just
can't
doing
even
it
see it
for you
here.
guys.
Well, it's
You
in
got
Master B.
28 people in here can't see it.
It's in Master B if you want to post it, QE.
John, we got 10 people in here and we can't see it either, so.
But the future show everyone will
The
see it.
audience can see it, and that's all that matters.
Okay, so the slide after the 2021 year of the sextant before it got changed. You're on that one?
I'm now on the one that's got 90 degrees equator circumference of Earth, 21,600.
Yeah, go back one.
We just start from the beginning.
No. What, you want to go back one? You want to go to that one with the 21,600 circumference?
If you want to start from either, I'm on the one with zenith and north and azimuth angle.
Yeah. Just let this picture, like the previous picture, sink in. They need that flat surface to get an elevation angle above a horizontal, which is level, sea level. That's why.
It's sunk in.
Okay, next slide, the one with the blue circle showing the equator and the 90.
Yep.
This is a circle, by the way, folks, not a sphere. This is the base 60 Babylonian sexagesimal system. The origin is the center. They came up arbitrarily that a circle is 360 degrees. And a degree is one rotation. 2 degrees would be another rotation. And you can do that all the way 360 times and end up at the same place you started. And a degree is 60 minutes. And a degree is 60 nautical miles. And each minute is 60 seconds. There's your degrees, minutes, and seconds. And the 5,400 miles is what Brian has been trying to share with everyone, which is when Polaris is at the horizon and it goes away from your eyesight because of perspective. That's what they use to trick us and say, oh, okay, well, we can't see it anymore. So that must be the equator then, because now we're gone too far on the globe. So let's use that and say we live on the ball. The whole idea of getting an angle can't work on the ball. People seem to forget that. And so they've made their Earth, and you'll see it in a minute. If we go on to a few more slides, let's keep going. The next one is the plane that they need. Okay. That's quick. Go to the next one. There's the equatorial plane there after they cut the Earth in half, and the one that says local meridian on the top left. So this can't work on the surface, right? And the reason it can't work on the surface, next slide, spirit level, horizontal, bubble sextant, horizontal. We're almost there. Yeah. You're going to say more when I get to 2 more pictures. Okay, the battleship one. They even put one under the battleship here. Can't even shoot an enemy aircraft without that plane underneath you to give you the angle above the horizontal. And Brian, you can jump in here. The next slide showing the slice of their presupposed globe. And this is where they have to put it to lie to us. But no one's there. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, well, what we get and what we have gotten for 8 years now, 7 for me, 8 for people like Betty, is that the drop of Polaris in the sky, the apparent drop of Polaris in the sky, matches your latitude on a globe. So it's a globe. This is circular reasoning. Where did they get the latitude from? How did they know the distance between the latitudes? From elevation angles, flat out elevation angles taken at sea as they moved away from Polaris. That's how they have the latitude and longitude grid. They had to start off with the distance from Polaris and the drop of Polaris, because Polaris is the only thing in the sky that's constant. Everything else is always moving. Sun, moon, stars are always moving. What they call planets are always moving, like wandering stars. Polaris stays constant. It's the one thing they could rely on. So it only came down to how much they moved away from or moved close to the GP of Polaris. all the globe measurements, their dual radii and their average radius is all based around those flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris as they moved away to the point of where they went just past the equator. With the exception of celestial refraction, where they could get to just around the equator and Polaris appears to be on the horizon. You know, it's all flat Earth elevation angles. That is what created the 3950 polar radius and the 3963 equatorial radius for our globe. That's why they had to bring everything into the center. They just hijacked perspective, and the hijack perspective took all the angles they used that they needed a flat Earth to get, brought them all into the center of a circle, and were able to then mathematically show that from the center of this circle, that if you move this much, 1 degree, then that would be 60 nautical miles. 2 degrees be 120 nautical miles, blah, blah, blah. But all these things required a flat Earth to get. So that's why the longitude lines, right, are the same exact length, whether they're curved around the sphere or lay there flat. But the latitude lines don't do that, south of the equator, right? Because everything on the whole globe model is built off a flat plane. It's built off a flat Earth elevation angles to Polaris. It's a complete and utter farce.
Perfect. Nathan, last slide.
Okay.
So you see the yacht or the ship with the right angle that's needed, star or sun. This can't work on the surface, so where can it work? Well, they have to put it at the center because that's a flat plane at the center when you cut it in half. So the trick is they measured it flat and said, in order to deceive people who live on the globe, we'll say we got it from the center because it can't work from the top. Hope the ballers wake up.
Stuff. The pain is over, those of you in Discord who couldn't see. Thank you for your patience.
Now, I also have a 10-point presentation, if you don't mind. Should take about 20 minutes or so.
No worries. Go ahead, Eli. Anytime.
What about QE? I thought he had something.
I'm just kidding.
Did you want to add
Nah, he went on deafen. We have a ball tard that's on deafen inside the VC that said that the line of sight to the horizon on a globe is as straight as the line of sight to the horizon on a flat Earth. Wanted to give that one to Nathan, but
Well, they tell us or have told us for the last 2 straight years how bent it is. Refraction. That's not straight.
he's on deafen, so.
You know, that's
Who is he?
That never really.
It's coffee hose.
Oh, yes, I see. Alrighty then.
But remember, tomorrow morning, we have the celestial navigation teacher coming in. Proto Thad. Don't forget about that.
Oh, yeah, hold me back. So exciting.
So, Copy doesn't have a lot of hoes to say?
Oh, he's chat skanking, though.
Oh, so he went
You know,
on
we're talking about him
deafen.
in live VC right now. Can someone make him aware that he's on deafen and we're actually talking about him?
Yeah, I will.
Thank you.
Wonder what theoretical light ray bending has to do with what the light does from let's say a geometric obstruction to your eye. I wonder what light bending has to do with whether or not something actually is there geometrically obstructing your view.
Well, they need it to be. It'd need to be the tangent point we discussed for the last 20 minutes. For the tangent plane that they'll work off when they're deriving elevation angles, they need it to be flat. However, we've debunked that. Black swan. No straight line to a tangent point on a sphere anymore. Refracted according to them.
But even then, I don't know what that would have to do with, like, because you have the horizon 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height. So say you have someone that's 1 foot. Well, the horizon should be 1.2 miles. Well, so the light from that geometric blockage should be bouncing back to your eye. Like, they call that the horizon, and the horizon is not there. I don't know what light bending has to even do with that.
Eli, it's a thought experiment.
It doesn't. I don't know if just answer him. It doesn't, because it's a geometric claim. When you say the Earth sphere horizon is going to be at 1.2 times the square root of the observer's height in feet, and if you're at 1 foot, then the light from the physical geometric obstruction, whether or not it's bending, is irrelevant, because it's a geometric claim. That's what you're saying. Yeah, that's right. The moment you show that it doesn't fall within the parameters of the physical geometry they're claiming, that's Earth curve, then who gives a crap about refracted light? It's no longer geometric. That's the end of your geometric claim, Eli. That's right. Bye-bye Earth curve, in other words.
They want to assert that we live on a sphere. Then when you bring the maths for a sphere of a radius of 3959 and say, okay, if we live on a sphere with a radius of 3959, begging the question for you, and then we finish with the black swan, but they hate that. They hate having their sphere being called out. It doesn't match their radius.
Yeah, share your pain would be the answer. QE, have we got Ballbusters on Saturday?
Yes.
So this gets aired on Nathan Oakley channel on Friday night. So therefore, be here or be sphere tomorrow if you're watching this on a re-up on the Nathan Oakley channel for Ballbusters. As that'll be at 8 PM UK and 3 PM Eastern.
It's gonna be 2 p.m. U.S. Central, and I think that's 7 p.m. your time. Is that correct?
Are we doing it an hour earlier?
No. No. 2 p.m. I don't know. What time you got there?
8 PM UK, 2 PM Central. Okay.
Is it 8 p.m.?
Yep. That's typically Ballbusters time in the UK, 8 PM.
Yeah, we're going with the typical time. I've been screwing it up. Oh, we got Protothad, our guest for tomorrow in chat. Oh, the other guy, the coffee host, said he didn't want to go on the show, but thank you for the invite.
It wasn't an invite. We were just informing him that we were talking about him.
Yeah. I informed him. He said thank you, but no thanks. And then we got Protothad. And he's chat skanking as we speak.
He in VC.
Yeah, in the text chat.
No, VC. He's not in the voice chat.
No, he hardly ever, I've never seen him in VC.
I just want to see if there's any loose ends before I plug Ballbusters again.
You can say that one more time?
Any loose ends? Anybody in Discord that wanted to share their pain or similar?
I had a question for QE.
So do I.
Yeah. Do you have an extra, what is it again, argon pump laser that you might be able to lend to refracted curvature?
He heard that conversation. He was here.
He's not going to speak about light with you guys.
Kiri, you posted it in
No answer.
You posted Photothad's text. It says no.
Hold on to that there, 10th. How's the weather where you're at?
It's beautiful. We were 80 degrees yesterday.
Thanks.
I love it.
So will you lend your argon pump laser to refracted curve?
That was what he was answering.
Yeah, getting it. You're not getting
What's
it.
the weather? What?
You're not getting it, Owen.
Sorry. Hey, Hey, by the way, Neil, would you happen to have a intermolecular douchebag of gooselets laying around by any chance?
No need,
for,
no
for me
need.
to borrow.
How's the weather by you?
Okay, 10th, you had a question for QE.
Wow, you're
Hey,
all
Nathan,
so
make
interested
sure
in
you
the
check
progress.
your messages today. I'm gonna have a little something there for you.
All right.
Yeah, I answered his question. The weather's 80 degrees.
No,
Okay.
you had a question for him.
Yeah, just check your message. You'll see what I mean.
Could you
Don't do
guys
it
hear
now.
Citation Police? He was trying to say something.
No.
Citation Police, you want to say something?
There's a short challenge to 10th Man from Ruhif if he wants to take it up. It's approximately 30 seconds of video. It's
Bruce,
very quick
welcome
and
to
to the
come
point.
here.
God damn.
Bruce.
Can you not hear Citation Police
welcome to
talking?
come-
Hello? Try again.
Anyway, the premise goes that since he doesn't come here that often, he's just going to make short clips and you can respond to him if you want to. I posted it in the main
Yeah.
chat.
No, he's contacted me many times, and I've said, come on the show or pay me $5,000 an hour. So he can come here for free.
There you go.
Or pay me $5,000 an hour. Now, anybody would take up the free offer right there and then. So come on the show and state your case.
Does this challenge start with the angles already having been got, and now we're on to part 2?
Probably.
No, this is the definition. I think it.
Is this argument have words? Because apparently he thinks words are meaningless, so I don't know why he's having an argument.
Yeah, how would you communicate with Ruhith?
And would he borrow his pump laser out? His argon pump laser? Because he might have one.
Well, I mean,
if a pic,
he could take the laser and put it into his video and see if it geometrically comes out as a toroid, I suppose.
if a picture's worth 1,000 words, does that mean pictures are worthless if words are meaningless?
Sorry, I didn't get what his challenge was. Citation Police was trying to say it. What was his challenge, Citation Police?
A segmented debate. So, like, he creates a short segment, and fan watches it, maybe replies to it, and creates a reply back. Then he'll create a short segment to reply. That way, people can take as long as they want to reply, be as clear and concise as they want, etc.
There's no need for that because my only claim is the Sexton's angle measuring device, which came from their books. And then I defined what an angle was. That's my claim, and that cannot work with a curved adjacent. If he wants to debunk that, he can have all of eternity and never do it.
But that's not even a claim. None of that is a claim, Tent. That is just reality.
Fact.
That's just
I
fact.
know.
Yeah, it's
but
not a claim that needs to be supported.
No, I know, but if someone was to say, what is your claim about the sextant? I'll say, it's obvious. The fact, this is how the tool works. They even say this is how the tool works. So they want to go on to some other subject. That is the only thing that stood out to me when I went through all the books, that they're using the tool improperly when they say it's working on a curved adjacent. The tool cannot work on a globe. So put down the sextant, find something else, because the sextant destroys your globe.
And with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G Plus panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the PayPal link, joining as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!